can!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, Pakistan released their ticket pricings for the ICC Champions Trophy games in their country. The cheapest ticket is as low as $3. What is the ICC getting out of this? Are they banking on the India games to be held in Dubai? Virat Kohli comes back to his home city for a Ranji Trophy match after a decade. Delhi welcomes their superstar with chaos, pitch invasions and stampedes. But we ask, is Kohli the same boy who left Delhi with stars in his eyes and a massive dream? And what is the infamous link that this city has with Indian cricket? And speaking of drama, drama is unfolding in Bangladesh again. Violent protests force women's football games to be cancelled. Reason? It's against Islam. Have certain factions misinterpreted and mixed religion with sport unnecessarily. More of that on the show, but first, we'll take a look at all the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with cricket, Australian batter Steve Smith joined the elite list of players to have scored 10,000 test runs. Smith achieved this milestone after his first run against Sri Lanka in the ongoing test in Galle. Smith has taken 115 matches to become the 4th Australian and 15th overall to achieve this historical feat. In football, Manchester City escaped two scares yesterday. First, a fire broke in their merchandise stand outside the stadium. Then they beat Club Brugge 3-1 in the Champions League to continue their journey in the tournament. In Formula One, Lewis Hamilton reportedly crashed his Ferrari during the F1 team's private test runs in Barcelona. The 7-time world champion escaped unhurt. The test runs are taking place behind closed doors. Over in USA, NFL organizers have ramped up their security plans for the Super Bowl clash. Kansas City Chiefs take on Philadelphia Eagles on the 9th of February in New Orleans. The new security detailing has come in after an attack in the city killed 14 people. And 6 cyclists of the German national track team were injured in a car accident. The group was hit by a car driven by an 89-year-old in Mallorca, Spain. The incident occurred when the group left for training. The athletes are currently getting treated for their injuries. The stadiums in Pakistan are yet to get ready for the big ICC event that's around the corner. But guess what? The PCB and the ICC have managed to tick one box in the lead up to this. Tickets have gone on sale for the matches that will be held in Pakistan, a sign that things are possibly falling into place for a country that is under immense pressure to deliver a successful event. With just a few weeks to go for the mega event, the whole world will be watching Pakistan very closely. The first step has been taken. Tickets for the games in their country has been announced. But what's got me worried a bit is the price of all the tickets on offer. The tickets being sold are priced between 1,000 and 7,000 Pakistan rupees. That's about $3 to $25 for the first match between Pakistan and New Zealand. That's lesser than the tickets for India's ongoing series against England. The cheapest India-England ODI ticket is still 1,500 INR, and it's still 383% costlier than the cheapest Champions Trophy ticket. Now, I understand Pakistan wants fans in their country who have been starved of top international events for decades now to witness this and pack the stadiums. The rates are keeping in mind the economy, the interest, and of course the intent of getting the true Pakistan fan to the stadiums to watch this ICC tournament.
The affordable ticket pricing ensures that fans from all walks of life can be part of this historic spectacle, making it a celebration for all generations of cricket lovers.
Going by the amount that ICC and PCB have invested in the tournament via renovating stadiums and getting the event across to the country, the ticket pricing will not make any dent in trying to make up for all those expenses. So what does the ICC get out of this? Because financially, this model doesn't make sense. And I'll elaborate on that. That's the price of all the tickets that we were talking about in Pakistan. It's ranged from $3 to $90, and that's because there is a lot of, the opening game has a very high price there, but the rest of the venues and the rest of the matches, it's a little tolerant there. We'll compare it to the price range of tickets at the T20 World Cup in USA and West Indies. Let's look at the ODI World Cup. That's what it is for West Indies, $6 to $150 in West Indies. USA, of course, was far more because of the India matches being held in the US, of course, and many other reasons. We'll come to that. Let's look at the ODI World Cup in India the previous year, and you'll see another difference there. In India, it was $5 to $115, and I'm only speaking of certain matches here. Of course, a lot of the other games, the knockouts were had a bit of a bump. This is what all of this shows, of course, is a massive disparity. Now, we understand why the difference. It is directly proportionate to the state of the economy of the host country and the earning power of the people there. Let's also look at what this compounds to, because stadium capacity, of course, needs to be taken into account. So the comparisons, like we did for the ticketing for the T20 World Cup and the ODI World Cup, let's look at the stadiums then and what the capacity of the different stadiums are. If you look at Pakistan, the biggest stadium there is, of course, Lahore. It is now going to be able to seat 35,000 people, 35,000 fans. It was earlier only able to seat 26,000. It was a massive reduction from the earlier. And now if you compare that to other venues there, venues that did host the T20 World Cup as well as the ODI World Cup, New York in USA was the biggest of the stadiums in USA. 34,000 is what they were able to seat. If you look at West Indies, the biggest stadium was in Port of Spain, 25,000 spectators coming in for matches that were held there. Of course, in India, you do know which is the biggest stadium. The biggest stadium was Ahmedabad, 134,000 screaming people were able to be seated there. You can imagine what each of these venues then made for the games going by the ticket pricing that was set during the ICC event, what that would entail. And that's what the stark difference there is. So coming back to the question that triggered this comparison in the first place, what does the ICC get out of this? The only way we can view this particular disparity is a moral win, a win that comes from ICC managing to take an international tournament that was paused for 8 long years to a country that has not hosted an ICC tournament for nearly 30 years. An emotional win, a win that they probably failed to achieve even with a similar intent of taking cricket to different shores, to every possible country. That's what the last World Cup was supposed to achieve. USA did not prove to be what ICC hoped that it would. And they intend to make up for that with this particular move of taking cricket to Pakistan finally and getting teams to come there and play. Of course, it's now down to a hybrid model, but they're still viewing this as an emotional victory. Level the playing field. And yes, there is always the India matches in Dubai to make up when it comes to the finances. All India games are the most priced. We saw that during the last ICC event, the T20 World Cup in 2024. The highest priced tickets involved India as one of the teams. So Dubai is what will probably try to make up for the deficit ICC is bound to endure through the ticketing in Pakistan. Of course, they're saying that those prices will be out soon. They see this as a win-win then, emotional and financial. What do you think though? Let us know. These aren't visuals from an international match. It's no bilateral game involving India. This is a domestic match in an Indian city. That's right. You had to see it to believe it. That is, if you weren't there at the stadium yourself or watched it live. Apparently, the broadcasters were not going to telecast an insignificant Railways versus Delhi Ranji game, but they made a hurried U-turn just as Virat Kohli flew into the Indian capital city, and a flurry of activity, of course, unfurled. India's star cricketer Virat Kohli's domestic cricket return was a festival, and he's yet to come into bat. The game that started earlier today ended Kohli's 13-year-long break from Ranji Trophy. Fans queued up from 5 a.m. to try and get a glimpse of the star who is the son of the soil. And 5 a.m. these days in the capital city is a little chilly, cold and foggy, but of course none of that was any concern for thousands of fans who came in hordes. Of course, there were chants of RCB, which is Royal Challengers Bengaluru, the club that Virat Kohli plays in at the Indian Premier League, and that's what was echoing through the Arun Jaitley Stadium in New Delhi. The DDCA, the Delhi Cricket Association, this time were forced to open multiple enclosures, unlike the lone single stand that they would always end up opening for earlier domestic games, for the crowd to be seated this time, because that is how low the turnout usually has been. And just like every other Kohli match, India International, or like we see a domestic game, this one had plenty of drama too, and not the kind that Kohli himself was involved in. A stampede broke out outside the stadium. Few fans were reportedly injured, and a police vehicle was damaged too, as fans jostled to catch Kohli on a cricket field with his state-mates after a decade. I say state-mates, but almost all of his teammates were in school, were kids dreaming of becoming the next Virat Kohli when this superstar last played domestic cricket.
काफ़ी एक्साइटेड हैं सारे, बहुत मोटिवेटेड भी हैं उनके आने से, एंड उनका एक प्रेजेंस ही सबको लाइवली करता है.
And that feeling was mutual. Ayush Badoni, who you saw there, the captain of the Delhi side, was sharing the dressing room with the person he grew up watching, one of his idols. So obviously fans wanted any chance they could get to see if they can get up close to Kohli, resulting in, yes, a pitch invasion. Of course, CRPF had to intervene and handle the situation. The Delhi Cricket Association had prepared for something like this. Security had been beefed up. It was, after all, the king coming back to his own kingdom. I can only imagine the mayhem when the star walks out to bat with his swagger and the cricket bat swinging, because this city has hardly watched Kohli play. Forget domestic cricket, Delhi hasn't had the opportunity to host too many international matches featuring Kohli. Apart from 3 one-dayers that he was a part of, including the match against Afghanistan at the ODI World Cup in 2023, Kohli has played just 4 matches in his favourite format in this city, his city of birth. The last one, of course, coming 2 years ago, around about that, against Australia, a team he loves to play up against. A match where Kohli, sitting in the dressing room with the then coach Rahul Dravid, got thrilled when his food parcel arrived. Of course, speculations of which went viral. Could it be the chickpea dish, chole bhature, that he's always loved and spoken about, or a kidney beans gravy with rice, the traditional Rajma Chawal? Another reason for this chaotic frenzy to try and catch Kohli, a lot of the encounters Delhi hosted gave birth to only controversies, whether it was the horrible pitch on offer at one time or the smog that affected the match in 2017 against Sri Lanka, which forced the visiting cricketers, who were all masked up, to stop playing entirely. And despite being a stadium in India's capital city, it hasn't produced the kind of spectacle that fans here have longed for, especially spectacle that involves their favourite Virat Kohli, which meant Delhi hardly got the chance to embrace their prodigal son. Ironical now, considering Kohli is far away from that Delhi boy who still stays to his roots. Well, the attitude and aggression aside, he no longer lives in the city, plays for another franchise, a city that seems to have taken ownership of Virat Kohli, Bengaluru, no longer breeds the kind of food that he grew up on here, none of that junk food for the fitness enthusiast that Kohli went on to become. He's a new Kohli. No wonder then the craze. This was the only chance fans would get to see him in his original habitat.
सुबह 7:30 बजे से आया हूँ मैं, 3 दिन से आया हुआ हूँ यहाँ पे। मेरी आईडी भी है, यूपी से आया हुआ हूँ, यहाँ दोस्तों के पास रुका हुआ सिर्फ मैच देखने के लिए, विराट कोहली के लिए। ये सिर्फ विराट कोहली की वजह से है भीड़, नहीं तो रणजी का कोई क्रेज नहीं। पहले भी मैच हो चुके इस ग्राउंड पे रणजी के, लेकिन कोई इतना क्रेज नहीं, कोई इतनी पब्लिक नहीं। पहले
बहुत बड़ा फैन हूँ विराट कोहली का बचपन से ही। मैं आया हूँ शक्ति नगर सिंधोरा कला से, पहली बार देख रहा हूँ इतना भीड़ में। और भी मैच देखने आया हूँ उधर, मगर पहली बार इतना रणजी ट्रॉफी में इतना भीड़ पहली बार सिर्फ विराट कोहली का ही क्रेज है और किसी का नहीं।
विराट का ही क्रेज है, दिल्ली का कप्तान कौन है?
आयुष धोनी है दिल्ली का कप्तान, मगर सारे फैंस यहाँ पे विराट कोहली के लिए ज़्यादा आए हैं।
At least he answered the quiz, right? The interview, of course, tried to put that fan on the spot, but well done there. But it isn't just the on-ground presence that proves just what an absolute star, a crowd magnet that Kohli really is. He ruled digitally too. He made Ranji Trophy the second most trending search online, a 400% spike in just a few hours. And he's not even down to doing what he does best, bat. What this, of course, episode and this day has shown is love him, hate him, you simply cannot ignore Virat Kohli. And this was Delhi's way of reminding him where he truly comes from and of his humble beginnings. Bangladesh has been through a turbulent year. Protests erupted across the entire country. Rage grew against the Prime Minister, who was forced to flee and take refuge. And they are barely recovering from months of political turmoil. The latest incident has brought sharp focus back on the divisiveness and hatred that seems to be fueling Bangladeshis. A women's district-friendly football match in the northwestern city of Joypurhat was cancelled. A student-led protest from a traditional religious school damaged the venue where the local side was hosting a team from Rangpur city. The reason behind the protest, the students say women playing football is un-Islamic.
The Islamists in our area gathered in a field and marched toward the venue. There were hundreds of them. The situation worsened and we had to cancel today's event.
But the leader of the violent protest was not the students. They were only acting on instructions. They were mere protesters following the commands of the headmaster of the school, Abu Bakr Siddiqui.
Girls' football is un-Islamic. It is our religious duty to stop anything that goes against our beliefs.
School headmasters set principles. They established the value system for students to follow. The very people who go on to form a significant part of a country's future. It's the headmaster who helps students decide what's the right from the wrong. The headmaster here feels that it is his religious duty to stop women's football because it goes against religious principles. What's concerning is that this isn't the only instance of a women's football match getting cancelled in the country. Just a day earlier, another game was delayed indefinitely, this in the nearby city of Dinajpur. A similar demonstration took place where protesters forced the match to be cancelled just half hour before kickoff. And what's worse, the protest was not a peaceful one. 4 people got injured in the tussle. 2 incidents in 2 days spells out clearly that sentiments against women footballers is only intensifying in this country. Till now, this was only restricted to football. But how these protests could shape, what shape this protest could take is, of course, anybody's guess. Because the country and the political setup currently is not on solid ground. Action is being driven by religious sentiments following the ouster of Sheikh Hasina and her government. A series of communal attacks, of course, followed, targeting minorities in the country, particularly the Hindus. It included attacks on temples, homes, shops belonging to minorities. There's a lot of instability, and it's clear that sections of people living in this country do not feel safe. Something that we have seen in a larger scale, of course, in a neighboring country like Afghanistan. Now these protests are leading to an infringement on basic rights. And like they say, to ignite a fire, all it takes is one minor spark. And that minor spark has been these protests, held back to back, forcing women's football matches to get canned on religious grounds. Religion seems to be dominating sporting arenas everywhere. Recently, an Uzbek chess player refused to shake hands with India's Grandmaster Vaishali Ramesh Babu during a Tata Steel tournament, saying his religion forbade him to. That sparked a raging debate on whether religion should really influence sports. The Bangladesh incident is another chapter in that exact narrative. The one thing that's common to religion and sport is that it brings people together. Certain miscreants may have misunderstood the situation entirely. To say a sport is un-Islamic needs to have logic, because the rest of the world, of course, doesn't see it that way. In 2023, Morocco's Nouhaila Benzina made history by becoming the first player to wear a hijab at a football World Cup. That was an example of sporting cultures adapting themselves and becoming more inclusive, more mindful of all religions and athletes who practice every religion. And here we are, a year later, witnessing the youth of a country protesting against a sport that is played by all worldwide. Time for Last Serve. Neymar's rumoured move to his boyhood club Santos is already getting fans excited. The negotiations, of course, with Neymar is still on, but one fan just cannot wait. He has a tattoo to welcome his Brazilian hero. Crazy fans, definitely the theme of the day today. But that wraps it up here on Firstpost. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care. We're calling the show Vantage. We hope you like what we put together for you. Touted as the minimum defense from that video. India's neighbours were the first to send the special edition of Vantage live from the White House throughout the biggest Hindu mandir in. We're on our way to Tel Aviv. Pretty measure, but it's also the perfect way to drive.
I don't think that
Prime Minister of Bhutan, Sherin Tagwe.
welcome to 60% of the world's
Office Prime Minister Modi did the iron.
we were actually
How are you doing? How do you like? It's been 1 year since that meeting. Iron bars separate you from the outside. Out the vote effort. Trump had, it says, and at $4.3 trillion. 4.3 300 billion by 2030. That's what we need to tackle climate change.